thank you everybody for attending. It's a small community here. It's good to see that there's the group that we have here. So hopefully you'll find it interesting and worth your time coming into DIT today. So today we're going to be presenting the results of Bitcoin Survey 2016. This is so myself. My name is Jamie McCormick. My background is in video games publishing, as I said beforehand. I've worked classically trained in marketing and studied here at DIT. And I've been working in digital marketing since 2002. A couple of years ago, the games industry here, in terms of the international jobs, kind of tanked, and I was given the choice between emigrating to follow my games career or staying in Ireland. So I chose to stay in Ireland, and when we were looking at different opportunities that were there, Bitcoin at the time jumped out at me. So we set up the Bitcoin marketing team, which is a specialist Bitcoin marketing agency. And my own background was originally in journalism. That's how I got into the games industry. So I set up Bitcoins in Ireland really to write about some of the issues that I had. It wasn't hard to buy Bitcoin, but it was hard to sell Bitcoin. Information on mining, in terms of getting it, various different events, because there wasn't really anything putting on the record at the time. So we conducted the survey. It's our second annual survey that we've done. We'll be doing it next year as well. And it was focusing on Bitcoin usage. And we ran it between April and June 2016. Last year we did the survey just in English, and through Renee and some of the team and lots of volunteers, we were able to translate and localize that survey into 13 languages this time around. So we had it in English, Albanian, Chinese, Finnish, Romanian, Italian, Turkish, Arabic, Spanish, Polish, Russian, German and French. It's a fairly big endeavour to get that done. We aimed at Bitcoin users across the world. Most of the research that's been conducted to date has been very much North American focused. So very much skewed to the US and Canada. There wasn't really much European research. And obviously we're in Ireland and we were looking kind of across Europe, so that's why we did it. We put up 1.25 Bitcoin in incentives, which is split across 20 rewards. So these range from 0.05 Bitcoin to half a Bitcoin, and these were randomly distributed to people who responded every month to keep it going. So in terms of the background, as I said, we're working with quite a lot of Bitcoin and blockchain companies. So we work with clients in Estonia, in Czech Republic, in the UK. We got our first Irish client this week as well, which is great. Prior to working on that, I've published quite a lot of research on the Irish games industry in terms of mapping out the industry, north and south, in terms of job figures, in terms of estimates for the size. And when I started in this industry, there was about 250 people within the industry. Back in 2001, it's now up to about 3,500. So, that's where I'm seeing that the blockchain industry can kind of grow at the same kind of level, although it probably won't take as long. So there's a very severe lack of primary research available on the market. I didn't trust most of what I read. It seems to be hodgepodge, bits and pieces put together. And obviously with my background, we decided that we should do primary research for it. And when we did the survey last year, we didn't get as many responses as this year, but we got a very positive response from the community. So we've continued this the second year, and we've got even better. So we're going to be doing it again next year as well. So we really wanted to make sure that we were trying to get as representative information as possible. So we did this survey in 13 different languages. Also, most of the research that's available on the industry right now is behind the paywall. So you might have to pay €1,000 or $1,000 or $2,500 for the report. My games research was always free, in terms of I was working with the community, they were helping create the content for it, and then we gave it away for free. So in this way as well, it's going to be the same. It will be published on a pay what you want basis, so if you want to get it for free, you can. Otherwise, you can put in whatever amount that you want, and that'll just go into our peer funds to say thank you to the guys who've been working on it for 5 months. And really this means that we're going to have hopefully a data set that students and investors and people who are interested in learning about the industry can have that, and it's available freely as well. And that was really, really, really important in getting the buy-in from respondents. So in terms of our research objectives, we wanted to conduct a primary research product. Why we're doing this is for guiding our own company's development in terms of identifying what kind of markets there are and who are the users of Bitcoin. Obviously for our agency clients, this can kind of help guide some of their own plans, and we've conducted kind of various different market studies on behalf of clients as well that we can share. but this was to supplement that as well. Also, we wanted to get a non-US focused view of how people are using Bitcoin. As I said, we wanted to conduct open research. Also, once the results are out there, hopefully there'll be a bit of debate. Last year we put it out, some different media picked out various different things, and people started to ask questions about it, which is great. And lastly, it had a bit of crack for over the couple of months that we had. So in terms of how we actually went through the survey, so we reran the survey based on last year because we wanted to have comparable information. We haven't done the comparison between years yet because this has been a big project to get through, but hopefully later on we can do that. So we had a couple of improvements to some of the questions and some things that were missing last year that we added in, but it's broadly the same survey as last year. The survey was localised by a team of volunteers, so our backgrounds in video games, we had lots of friends who are doing localisation within that, and they helped. So big plus for that. Once we had there was a couple of other languages that we couldn't get, so Bitcoin Talk, some volunteers came forward, Reddit, some people came forward as well, and they offered, quite a lot of time to actually localise the survey. A few people also approached us and said, look, this isn't in our language, we want to see it in our language, so they actually came forward, which is great. Once we localised the survey, we used Daddy, which is made in Sligo IT. It's now owned by WordPress, and it's a market research software, so we supported an Irish company using that, plus it was the best thing that we could find, much better than some of the competitors. We put up 21 rewards. These were distributed across 3 monthly draws, and we recorded and posted these on YouTube as well, so that people could see, we've got the random list, we're selecting the names, we got them in, and then we sent the transactions out and posted the transaction IDs. What was interesting was, throughout the whole thing, we clearly flagged to people that, if you try and game the system, all of your responses are going to be null. So we had less than 1% of people who did duplicates, which is pretty good for this as well. And that meant we had various different ways that we can see, between email addresses and IPs and the answers and the Bitcoin addresses that people were using. So less than 1% of duplicates, which was great. In terms of how we promoted it then, so we promoted it the same way as we do most of our product launches and through our experience. So we used press releases to be Irish media #1, so we had the likes of Silicon Republic, Irish Tech News, and various other sites that would have picked it up locally. It was also picked up by a number of Bitcoin media, with contacts we built up over time. Also, we worked with Turkish and Spanish companies who helped us localise and distribute the PR in their languages as well. So Spanish and Turkish actually had quite a high proportion of responses, which was great. We then actively promoted it over the course of 3 months across all the channels that we could. So we Reddit, we Bitcoin Talk, we Bitcoin.com forums, YouTube, so little dash-ins. Pluto was kind of volunteering in terms of setting transactions and doing various different things there as well. We got quite a good response on Twitter and also Facebook as well, between the various different groups out of there. We supplemented these activities with over €1,000 in advertising budget, which we put up ourselves, which we ran across Google, Facebook, various different ones, and then a number of the Bitcoin advertising networks as well. So between all of these, then they combined to help us get the sample that we got back. So when we were doing our research methodology, we identified the areas that we wanted to get information on. There was 37 questions. We wanted to get some information on demographics, which are kind of very few and far between. We wanted to find out how people are actively using Bitcoin, like is it most of them have used it once, ages ago, or are they really recently using it. We also wanted to get people's opinions on Bitcoin wallets. If you need Bitcoin, you need a wallet to engage with it. Bitcoin exchanges, the main way that people seem to be getting actual Bitcoin. Bitcoin gambling, because last year it flagged that quite a high proportion of people were betting, so they're getting Bitcoin and blowing it. Bitcoin mining, because obviously it's one of the main ways that people generate Bitcoin to begin with, although these hardware that you have here are now obsolete completely with the halving. We also wanted to get people's opinions on the pros and cons of Bitcoin. And also to try and find out how people have lost Bitcoin between exchanges and wallets and various things there as well. So to make sure that we had the best data integrity, most of the questions, the order, where there's multiple choices, we randomized the order. And this just means that you can try and avoid patterns. So when people are filling in, they're just going da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and this helps make sure that you've got better information because they have to actually think it through. Most of the 37 questions were choices so that we could analyse the data very easily. However, we left quite a lot of open questions. And also with some of the questions like, have you lost Bitcoin? We would have asked what the circumstances were, and quite a lot of people were very honest in their answers as well. So once we had the survey ready, it was then localized into international languages. And that took, 3 or 4 weeks?
Pretty much about a month.
To get done. Managing, I think there's about 9 different people who were localizing, and obviously then trying to get the Bitcoin terminology in there as well. It then needed to be proofread as well, just to make sure that it didn't sound stupid, and some of the people that we didn't know, we needed to get a sanity check just to make sure that they weren't putting anything stupid in. And Google, with some of the languages, did not translate them very well. Once we launched the survey, we promoted it across 12 weeks, from the middle of June up until the end of June, middle of April, up until the end of June 2016. Once the survey was completed, we then had to export all of the results, localize them back into English, combine the data, and then on the basis of this combined data, we were able to generate a report that we have. So this, as I said before, will be made available on a pay-what-you-want basis. So if you want to just read it, get it for free, it's there. If people in the industry want to buy us a beer or whatever else, there's the opportunity to do it as well. And that was really important. I found in my research that people are much more likely to buy into something that they know that they can read themselves as well. And when we're looking at the feedback and the comments in a lot of the surveys, people are saying, look, I'm really happy to do this, and I can't wait to read the results as well, to see what other people think as well. So a big thank you to the people who participated. So also during the process, we got quite a lot of feedback, so within the actual survey itself, also through Twitter and private messages and Reddit and all these different places. So we weren't able to change the survey once it had been locked down and deployed, but for next year's survey we're going to be introducing them. So there was a few kind of job roles and different things that people had suggested, and we were able to put them in, so they'll be going into next year's survey. So in terms of the timeline, to show you how big of a project it was, so we commissioned the survey internally back in February 2016. We finalised the survey then shortly thereafter, started to localise it internally, then we had to get the survey set up within the software, then we had the survey ready at the end of March, and we kind of left it for a week or two just to take a breather. We launched the survey early mid-April. We kicked off with our community outreach first, just to get it out there and get our initial responses in. We then issued PR in English, Spanish and Turkish, and then at the start of May, for the end of April, we did our first draw. We then added 2 languages because volunteers came up and said we want help with this. We wanted to get into Chinese and Albanian were 2 languages that were added in. And then at the end of June, we did the second draw. We did a big final push then from mid-June onwards, really just to drum up as many numbers as we could. And then we did the final draw for 0.75 Bitcoin then at the start of July. And then the report has been published today. So quite an extensive project. So that's kind of the background to it, and we can get into the findings. So we had 771 responses across 12 languages. And we weren't able to get any Chinese responses in it. We found it very difficult to reach out, and it's one of the things that we flagged for next year, so we probably need to partner with somebody in that market to try and get some information. So in terms of the geographic distribution, across the 12 localized responses, we got 68 countries in the world. Having it in Spanish, we were able to get quite a lot of South America, North America, most of the countries in Europe. Russia is in there, but we only got and as we said, we weren't able to reach Chinese users, and the Russian users Russia's been very hostile towards it as well, so that probably was part of the problem. So in terms of the age demographics, in the survey we asked people for their year of birth. So if you ask people their age, they'll lie. If you ask people for date of birth, they won't feel comfortable doing it, but a year of birth. I've always found throughout my career is something that people are happy to divulge. It gives enough information, but it doesn't give precise information that can be tracked by. So once we worked this out, we took this current year and minus that year, we're able to work out the demographics that we have here. So as you can see, it's kind of early 20s all the way up to 50s, which is quite a broad age range of 30 years old for people. There's also quite a lot of people who are interested in getting older and older and older, which is pretty interesting, and very few people under 18. which was a bit of a surprise for us, considering that people be familiar with virtual currencies on games and virtual currencies on mobile devices and these various different things here as well. But you're really talking that from 30 to 40, early 20s to 40s is the kind of the main age profile for people using Bitcoin. In terms of the gender demographics, we worked really hard to try and get female responses in. We contacted female tech sites, we did advertising targeting females only, did everything, and we still only get, it was 5.7% of responses from the people who said that it was. In the games industry, it was very male focused, it was always kind of like 10-15% female. Bitcoin is really male. Very few females in the industry as well. Probably looking around the room, it's probably representative of most of the events that I've gone to. There's only ever really been one or two people who have come along. So very much a male-focused industry. Now, when we asked people when they started using Bitcoin, 2013 is really the key year when most people started. So you have a couple of early adopters who would have started back in the day, and then most people were even coming on board 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. So it's been running 7 years. That kind of links in with the price of Bitcoin. So as the price went up, more people got interested. When we asked people in terms of how actively they're using Bitcoin, this was quite a good surprise for us. Over 65% of respondents had said that they'd sent a Bitcoin transaction today, yesterday, or within the week. And it's even more when you have it within the last month. We also got quite a lot of people who haven't used Bitcoin yet, and then a smaller proportion who would have used it in the past and maybe not doing it so much these days as well. So that's good from the point of view of when people are using Bitcoin and they're engaged with it, they're very actively using it as well. So this one here is spread across a couple of slides, and I might need to read it out because it looks like it's a bit blurred on the screen. So we asked people to specify how they saw themselves. We have many different options that were there, ranging from hobbyists or students or people working in the industry or people running with different entrepreneurs. And there's some trends that we have here. So the German responses, our top three were people who were beginners, people who were Bitcoin buyers, people who were cloud miners, so they were mining it with other people's hardware, and then a proportion of people who were looking for a career in it. With the French responses, we had people who were saying they were amateurs, so there's a bit of language difference, but it still means the same thing. People who were trading Bitcoin, people who were buying Bitcoin, and people who were exchanging it. In terms of the Polish responses, we had a novice, so again, these are amateurs who are doing it, and hobbyists. So in Poland, more of the respondents were saying that they were coming from that point of view. People using Bitcoin cloud mining. When it came to the English responses, which was our biggest sample size, again, 18% of people saying that they're hobbyists, 16% saying that they're buying, 12% saying that they're trading, and then next up after that were people who were either looking for a career in Bitcoin or who were interested in studying Bitcoin. And when it comes to the college stuff, there's still really isn't any third-level courses that are doing anything to do with blockchain. When we have a look at the Turkish responses, so the biggest response was people who were trading Bitcoin and using exchanges, and then again hobbyists, the cloud miners. The Spanish responses, which was one of our biggest ones as well, again people saying they're amateurs, people buying, and people looking for a career. So regardless of the country that they're talking about, you have a lot of people who are coming in, like the people in this room, maybe the representative sample, who are coming in, they've been interested in it, they want to know more, they want to find a job, and so that was pretty interesting. And the other languages, there wasn't really enough sample size to go through it. We then asked people some open questions. So we asked them what they like about Bitcoin and what they don't like about Bitcoin. We were able to take all those responses, combine the information, and pull out what words came out. So quite a lot of themes. So you've got revolutionary, there's potential, it's secure, it's decentralized, it's open, it's the future, it's easy, it's free, you have your own control. You're not using banks, you're not relying on that network. It's new, it's fast, it's interesting, and there's value to it as well. Now, at the same time, when we look at what people don't like about Bitcoin, there's a lot of different words. The same people can have two various different opinions. So it's unstable. We've seen the price recently with the Bitfinex hack. It's tanked 20%. and it's rebounded up another 5%. So the traders are having a great time at the moment. Lots of scams. If you look at most of the advertising there, it's promising 2 or 3 or 4% a day in interest. Because there's a lot of news in the area, and a lot of hobbyists might not necessarily be educated about that, they're falling for these scams. Privacy is still a concern, and while Bitcoin is supposed to be an anonymous network, as technology has evolved, it's not actually as private as people would think. Transaction speed was one thing that got raised quite a lot. There's a lot of shady people. It's very complex in terms of, for a new person, that onboarding is very difficult. There's quite a lot of mentions of the politics of the development team, in terms of that the people running it there's a lot of infighting. It's very volatile. Developers, again, the block size debate came up quite a lot. The reputation was brought up quite a lot in terms of people saying that it has a very bad one, although it is improving as time goes on. People involved, it's not very highly accepted. While it's supposed to be decentralized, on the other side, quite a lot of people said it's been centralized between the people running it and the miners that are actually operating the network. There's quite a lot of criticism of the media in terms of that, just thinking through some of the comments, they don't trust the media that's there. So there's a lot of cryptocurrency websites that are up there, and people really have a very, very, very big pinch of salt when they're reading that content as well. There's a lot of drama, wallets are quite hard, the anonymity of people on it. Quite a lot of people have a problem with the community in terms of that it's very insular and there's a lot of fighting, and when somebody says something, you're being trolled all over the place. The price is very volatile, so that's keeping some people from not using it because it's fluctuating all over the place. The time for confirmations as well, and then that was quite hard to get into it as well. So looking at these two slides, it's quite interesting because you have on the one side people saying how brilliant it is, and on the other side, there's more negative words that are there. So next we then asked people about Bitcoin wallets. So from our research we found that people will hear about Bitcoin through friends or family or media or social media. They'll probably start looking for free Bitcoin. And the first thing that they know that they need to do is to look at wallets. And there's various different ones that are there as well. So we asked people about how they're using the wallets. We had 26% saying that they found one, stuck with it. We had 63% saying that they dabbled with a couple of different ones that were there, and they had eventually found one that they're happy with. 8% said that they had tried a few and they still haven't found that one that they want themselves. And then you had 3% of people saying that they didn't have a wallet yet. So nearly 2/3 tried. A good few. Now, we then were able to ask people for their opinion on the wallets. I'm going to read a couple of these out here as well because there's a couple of quite interesting ones here. So obviously these were coming from a broad mix of people. These were also representative, we found the same kind of responses regardless of what language we used. And some of the language, because it's translated back, might be a bit weird, but some people giving positive things, saying it's getting better with time. It's still not user-friendly enough for mass adoption. It's confusing. They're still too geeky and techy that they need to be simplified. They're too technical. Should be as easy as online banking. There's too many different implementations of the seed key backup strategy. This should be absolutely standard so that users can expect the same process for any wallet and never fail to secure a backup method. So for me, we would use Bitcoin Armory originally, and now that's just impossible to use. And we've had to switch to Trezor and mobile wallets like Red. But just picking up any of the older ones is quite difficult. So people saying that it's early days, it needs to be more user-friendly, they all need some work. They must do a good job at what they can do, but it needs to be a better way to handle payments and verifying you're sending it to who you think you're sending it to. So we're looking at, there's quite a lot of cases where people are saying, oh, I sent it to the wrong person, or I sent it to the right coin address, or name coin address. That block wasn't there, so that they went into the ether then. They've come a long way in the past few years, both in features and usability. All the good ones in terms of user experience are custodial wallets, which is a bad thing. Most still feel clunky, kind of like using Lotus Notes instead of Microsoft Office, probably because they're young. They're easier to use than Bitcoin QT, which is the original software, but still not ready for most consumer use. So people saying, I'd rather have something that's slow and ugly looking, but more secure than a wallet which looks cool and fast, but offers less security. Security is the number one concern. People saying that there's trade-offs depending on what wallet you choose. There's no one out there that is perfect. it's difficult to develop a good wallet. There will ultimately be users that will lose their coins no matter what the amount of idiot proofing, and we'll see some information on that a little bit later on. I'm skeptical of most wallet providers. Many of them come across as scammers, and when we look at some of the data there, there's quite a lot of lost information. Rather complex for the average users. They need improvements, but they're getting there. We need hardware wallets that aren't tied to any company in a way that if the company goes bust, the wallet does not become a paperweight. Valid points, especially when we use Trezor. And it's essential that they be multi-platform and easily transferable from device to device. So quite a broad range. There's a lot of, I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a lot of positive comments. There's a lot of people saying that they're going in the right direction, but very few people saying wallets are amazing and easy to use. Most people have these kind of feelings. Now, we asked people then, did they lose their Bitcoin through their wallet? And 1 in 8 people said yes, which is quite surprising. 1 in 8 of anybody, if you have 1 in 8 shareholders has lost their shares, or 1 in 8 bank account holders has lost their bank, like had their money lost, that would be a massive thing. And in Bitcoin, that's the case that we had. This is actually similar to last year as well. And then we could go into some of the reasons that they had as well. So, let me have a look. So, some of the reasons that were given. So, this last year, I lost 3 Bitcoins. The wallet won't open. I deleted the private local key. It 100% got lost. I didn't know what to blame myself. Some honesty there. The laptop motherboard fried and took out a hard drive. Sent it to the wrong address earlier on. I haven't lost a catastrophic amount, just enough to make me wary. I tried putting a wallet onto a near-field communication tag, forgot about it, and wiped it. Tried an old laptop with the wallet and keys on it, so I think that's happened to a few people. Although I know there was a guy in the UK who was trying to go to the dump to dig up his wallet, or to dig up his laptop. Accidentally sent Bitcoin to a Litecoin wallet. I lost a bit on a phone that I lost. I couldn't remember where the backup was, so they're pretty much gone. Small amounts. Somebody got their wallet hacked. Phone was lost, they didn't have it. They lost the password and the paper backup, which is unfortunate. Somebody tried one of the multi-signature wallets, and they backed up the same. Instead of backing up 1 and 2, they backed up 2 and 2. So they lost the first one and then they weren't able to use it. Again, it's a small amount. Somebody here is using a browser wallet, so they deleted the cookies and didn't have the email address of the Bitcoin wallet, so they lost them out of that. Won't be doing that again. The surveys made me actually think about making a backup and learning how to do this. So that was good. Probably the most common one, they forgot the details of their first wallet. When they were starting out my Selenium for Android, he performed a backup, did not write down the authentication code, flashed his phone, probably Android. So he had the encrypted private key in his hand, but no passwords, but not good as well. So he lost an amount there. Some of the older wallets, so they lost one of the wallet crashes and they couldn't recover it. And in this case here, somebody lost 7 Bitcoin, which is €3,500 at today's prices, because their wallet was unencrypted. They used UPnP to make it available. It's very technical, not just a lot of detail, but some hacker got in and nicked his coins. He learned the lesson, and he keeps his wallet encrypted and limited themselves to very small change in the unencrypted wallet on the phone. And that is also one of the things that came through. Most people will have at least 2 wallets. So they'll have one where most of their things are stored, and then they'll have one for day-to-day. So quite a broad mix in terms of wallets. Now, when we ask people what's important in wallets, security is number 1. Functionality and ease of use really came in. I think people can live with the certain things like business use. Not very many people would be using it. Cross-platform functionality is another. The load speed people can kind of live with as well, and the interface there as well. So security and functionality and ease of use are really the 3 key things that if you're looking at making a wallet, you want to have. Now going into exchanges, 3/4 of the respondents that we had were registered for a Bitcoin exchange. When you're registering for a Bitcoin exchange, there's quite a lot of rigmarole to go through. You need to register, and you need to verify the same way as you would if you're setting up a bank account or a stockbroker's account as well. So 3/4 were on exchanges. When we asked people what features are important, what came out first is the speed they can get Bitcoin out, very quick. This will relate to hot wallets. You then have the price compared to other exchanges, so many people register with more than one exchange, and there's also quite a lot of traders that maybe arbitrage between different exchanges as well. You then have the number of people using the exchange, which are kind of linking with the liquidity of the exchange. The simple interface came way more than a fancy interface. The speed of deposits. So obviously, like when we're buying Bitcoin on an exchange, we have to send it over the bank network. That has to hit their bank account. They then have to get that in and then put the money on their account so that they can do it. And then registration verification process came up next as well. That they need to be straightforward and there's trust in there. Now, we asked people then, it's very timely given what's happened with Bitfinex this week, how many people had lost Bitcoin either because an exchange had just gone puff, fly by night, or that they'd been hacked, depending on how people look at it as well. So in this case here, more than 1 in 6 people had lost Bitcoin through to one of these exchanges being hacked. Which again, if you have 1 in 6 people who are using a bank account or a stockbroker and they're being, they're losing their funds that are on, that'd be pretty ridiculous. Obviously, this is a growing industry. Now, there's various reasons that we were given and various different amounts. All of these ones around here relate to Mt. Gox. So there's various different reasons that were there. So Polymex was mentioned that their account was hacked, they didn't have two-factor authentication. Somebody lost 6 Bitcoins in Bitcoinica. Somebody lost 16 Bitcoin on the UK exchange back early in the day. Somebody lost money on Cryptsy, but they've been using that as a wallet. Again, Cryptsy was mentioned. Somebody was using Hive, which is a mobile app that went out of business, so they lost their Bitcoin addresses. Some of the blockchain wallets were taken. Cryptsy again is mentioned. A lot of people saying that they nearly lost the Cryptsy, but because kind of the writing was on the wall earlier on, most people just did. There was a run on that, so they can get out. Quite a lot of mentions in Mt. Gox. So Mt. Gox, this one person here kind of has been hit quite a lot of times. So with Mt. Gox, they lost some inputs.io, crypto trade, BTC, TC, and then mining operators and MCX and they closed. So this person here's probably been using them for a while and they've been hit 4 or 5 times. Glutton for punishment. They just keep doing it and keep getting hit. Somebody there had money in exchange and then the site kind of went shut down. Various services disappeared. And then Mt. Gox, this case here 70 Bitcoin, 62.5 Bitcoin, over 1,000 Bitcoin, triple digit Bitcoin. So these are big amounts. And if you think when the price was, when Mt. Gox crashes, $1,000. It's quite substantial amounts. 14 Bitcoin, and then 10 on Mt. Gox, and then on Bitcoin 24. So, quite a lot of people getting hacked for various reasons. So we then asked people what they thought was important when dealing with exchanges. So as with the other results, we were able to take all these responses, put them together, pull out what keywords are coming out. And we have liquidity, reputation, integrity, transaction speed, that they're fast, that they're quick, that they're easy. Customer support and the kind of speed of contact is really, really, really important for many of these people. That the market is seen as stable, that the fees are not necessarily that they're low, but they're competitive, that they're reliable, that there's trust, that there's transparency in terms of the ownership, who owns it, two-factor authentication, security, the interface and security there. So, this is, if you're working with any sort of financial industry, these are the same things that people are expecting. Now, with Bitcoin faucets, these are kind of a little weird thing. I'm sure most people have Googled free Bitcoin, and the first thing that you come across is a page plastered with ads that has a captcha that you fill in. So Bitcoin faucets dispense small amounts of Bitcoin. Now, these started off back in the day when Gavin Anderson, there was a hard fork back early in the day, and he put Bitcoin on and he dispensed it just to kind of help with some of the early adopters in the industry to get them going. This was then scripted and built up, and there's quite a lot of little micro wallets that have set up, and there's hundreds and thousands of these websites, all different themes, all different types of ads being shown on them. They've got pop-ups, they've got various different nefarious techniques to get you to use the advertising there as well. So 2/3 of respondents were aware of what they were using on these ones. So while they are a very interesting thing, they serve quite an interesting point of view, because For newcomers, what they're going to do is they're going to say, Bitcoin, free Bitcoin. They find one of these sites, they need to have a wallet, they get a wallet. And then a lot of people's sources of Bitcoin will then be, sitting there hammering in hashes over and over and over again to get tiny fractional amounts of Bitcoin. And then what a lot of people do then is they'll migrate them onto an exchange or a Bitcoin ATM or something else as well, because it's much easier and much quicker. However, in some of the less developed countries as well, people have been able to build up quite, if they've been doing this bit by bit by bit by bit over years, they can develop quite a little nest egg. Although obviously with the transaction all being so small, when they try and spend them, the transaction fees are going to be quite high. So in terms of what matters to in the faucets to end users, the value of the rewards, the regularity of the payout. Ironically, given that most of these are funded by advertising, people don't care what ads are being shown, they're not even looking at them. And the look and feel again, people don't really care about. So what's also happened recently in the last 2 or 3 months is Google has copped on. So most of these were funded by Google AdSense. Google has done a massive cull. So a lot of these sites that were the longer established ones have shut down, or they've been sold, or they've been merged, or they're kind of moving the traffic around as well, because their main source of income has been dropped. Now when it came to gambling, obviously when we looked earlier on at the demographics, there's very few people who are under 18 using it, and this is kind of representative across all the languages that we did, 44% of respondents have got Bitcoin and they gamble it. So and this isn't like gambling on the stock exchange, this is putting it into betting sites and more than likely losing it as well. It's a very lucrative industry that is growing up. When we look at people how they're gambling Bitcoin, dice roll sites, sports betting and casino games are the most popular by far. Many of the dice roll sites are what's called provably fair. So they have open codes that people can go in, you can take various different bits of information and verify that a bet was what it says it is as well. And this is kind of one of the killer apps of Bitcoin compared to normal casino operators. Like they hide their code, they don't want to know how bets are calculated, and in this there, there's a lot of there. Now what it generally means in practice is people go in, they deposit Bitcoin, they put in what percentage of risk they want to take, so they want to have 50% or 95% or 97%, and then they bet over and over and over again. Some people will build them up quite high, and some ridiculous bets that are going through as well. And people might be on a roll of the dice betting 10, 20, 100 Bitcoins in one go. And it's again mathematical. A lot of these, especially in China, are using APIs, so they're betting the API completely programmatically. Now when it came to mining, and this is down on last year, we asked people were they mining Bitcoin. Just over a third said that they do. And we can see here that 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016 are where the majority of people, and a lot more recent people getting into mining. Now when it came to hardware, the 3 main things that came in is the quality of the miner, but not necessarily the brand. The energy hash balance, which is how much it costs to run. So to see if you're talking about Irish electricity charges, you've got maybe 20 cents on average when you factor in the charges and the actual thing itself. How much you're getting in return is important as well. Also the cost of purchasing them is. And then I think people seem to be able to live with the taxes and duties for getting them in, because most of them are manufactured in China, and also the shipping fees for getting them in. They factor that into the cost when you're working at the ROI. And we thought brand reputation would be higher than it is, but there was other important things. So people just seem to care about, obviously, how much it's going to cost to get a miner, will it last, and how much it will cost to run. And we also asked people then in terms of how many times they've been buying hardware to get an indication of the longevity of Bitcoin. So 28% of people are kind of the same as themselves. They bought hardware once, it's now offline. And because they maybe in the early days they were doing it on GPUs or CPUs or the early ASICs that you have like we have on the room here as well. 11% then said they had bought hardware to replace hardware, so they were mothballing old equipment. 30% still had it in use. But we should note this survey was taken before the halving. So if we took that now, it would probably be a bit different because the values dropped so much. And then in terms of mining mishaps, the vast majority of people said that they had no issues, which was good to hear. However, there was still a number of mishaps that people had. So several fires, all resolved. Insurance companies, if you're a Bitcoin miner, probably not a good thing. Once power connectors overheated, they were running, it didn't catch fire, overheated in power outages, firmware issues, but it was fixed. No, but it was noisy. Destroyed the hardware because of heat. Minor power overdraw issues led to things being burnt out, neighbours complaining about fan noise. The room got too hot, the electricity bill doubled. It's probably the most common one here. Some Butterfly Labs equipment kept breaking, but they always fixed it, which is good. Burnt out graphics card caught fire, bulky software that meant it had to have been replaced. It got really hot, it overheated, had a capacitor blow, and a high electricity bill. So, most of them seem to be, it just costs us a lot of money and there's the inconvenience of the noise and the heat. There was a couple of fires as well. Obviously, if you have equipment that's running at full whack, people might have it overclocked and it's running in there. Obviously with these kind of equipment, it's not necessarily data center environments where it's clean, so you're getting dust and all these things in as well. So, finally, just wrapping up, we asked people in terms of how they see the relationship of the price of Bitcoin with their mining activity. So half said it was really, really, really important, but a quarter said it wasn't important and they were going to mine either way, between the two. So obviously at least 3/4 of people who are mining, the price of Bitcoin is really, really, really high. So people might have equipment, we have this equipment here now. If the price of Bitcoin is €200, you've no incentive to mine. But if the price of Bitcoin is €2,000 in a year's time, and we still have this hardware, then those fractional amounts that you can get out of older equipment would make a lot more sense. So coming to the end of the survey, so our main conclusions that we have. So the age profile is early 20s to late 40s. It's incredibly male focused, and there's very few people under the age of 18. Next, large amounts of people see themselves as novices, are looking to try and get into Bitcoin for a career, or are looking to study Bitcoin. While a lot of the responses like the freedom that Bitcoin gives, there's still a lot of negative feelings around it. And there's repeat mentions of losing Bitcoins, scams, the technical complexity of it, and hacks. So, any industry that's going to be facing those problems is obviously, has many, many, many hurdles in front of them. Nearly half of people gamble Bitcoin, so getting Bitcoin and then risking it all. 3/4 are registered with exchanges. 1 in 8 users lost some Bitcoin due to an issue with their wallet. 1 in 6 lost Bitcoins due to an exchange hack or shutdown. Most people try a couple of wallets and settle the one that they want, although, as we can see from the feedback, there's still quite a lot of room for improvement within these wallets. Bitcoin faucets, 3/4 of people have used them at least once. And of those mining Bitcoin, many people only got hardware once, and a couple of them have mishaps. So in terms of next year's survey, doing it this year, we have the groundwork already laid for next year's. 2 main languages that we were trying to get this year that we failed were Russian and Chinese. So we're going to have to try and find out the next couple of months or the next year. The thing will be easier in China than it will be in Russia to find a partnership where we can do the survey and share those results. We also find it very difficult to reach into these markets through what we would consider our normal channels. So the search engines we use here are different, the social media we use are different, the advertising networks that we have, well, they said they had traffic there, didn't really, and the media as well. It's very much English focused, which is around most of the media is either in the UK or in the US. So the UK media is very easy to work with. US media a little bit more difficult. We also then had throughout the survey suggestions from multiple people to get Indonesian done in the next year, Filipino, and Indian. So we're hoping that next year we're going to be able to add them. There was a couple of calls for Portuguese as well, just to get into Brazil. So we're going to be looking for volunteers to localize the survey into these languages. Now, in terms of the draws, so we recorded the draws for the Bitcoin survey. These are up on YouTube, along with pictures of Dash and around doing transactions in the Phoenix Park. There's also the addresses here for where we distributed the rewards. And last but not least, so thank you very much for attending today. We'll do a Q&A if anyone wants here as well. So the survey itself was commissioned by our company Bitcoin marketing team. We ran this through Bitcoins in Ireland, which is our magazine website. It took over 5 months between, how many people involved? 8? 7 or 8?
10 total.
Yeah, people were involved. There was over 500 hours of work, which we put into this as well. It was run by myself, my colleague Renee, and my colleague Nick, who's from Dublin but living in Wales. We also had localization coordinated by a guy called Stefan and Nick. We had loads of people from the Irish games industry who really helped localize this into different languages, so we want to say a big thank you to them. We also had a number of volunteers who came out of the ether and from Bitcoin Talk and Bitcoin, or sorry, Reddit. And then we had a lot of people who participated in the survey as well. So as we said, this information is going to be up publicly. If you are using it, just please credit it. And that's really all that we're asking for it. And that's the end of the presentation. So I'm very happy to take a Q&A if you want to ask. So put it out for it. So thank you.